finished my undergrad last year, and I'm currently working. I've known, I guess, Sathya for a few years now, since he came here to study. So I look forward to this group panel.
Avani?
Saram, everyone. My name is Avani. I am currently finishing up my last year of undergrad at UConn, but I'm originally from the Massachusetts Sai Center from Boston. I met Sathya when I started the YA community a couple of years ago, and it's been really great getting to know him as well as all the other YAs, and I'm really happy to be here.
Anmol?
Saram, everyone. My name is Anmol. I'm in the Rochester area. I'm doing my master's in Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. I'm originally from the Boston area as well. I go to the Northborough Sai Center, and I've known Sathya for some time, and I'm very happy to be here.
And then Abhiram? Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Saram, everyone. My name is Abhiram. I'm a sophomore right now. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, good. Saram, my name is Abhiram. I'm a sophomore. I'm originally from the Northborough Sai Center, and I've known Sathya for a very long time. I'm really excited to join this conversation, but I feel like there's a lot to discuss, and I know for a fact that every single one of us on this panel is really excited to start this. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited as well. I can kind of feel the energy through the internet. Let's kind of kick it off and share one of our most memorable experiences in SSE. I think one of my most memorable experiences is going to the different temples. We went to the mosque once, and then to the Buddhist temple, and I got to learn about different SSE values in different faiths. I thought that was pretty cool. You guys want to go like in the same order?
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. My favorite SSE experience, I guess, over the years has been the SSE plays, I guess. It was one of the times where we could come together and sort of apply what we learned in some dramaturgical format. But that said, I've also loved all the service projects we've done over the years. I think those are really where we've managed to apply Swami's teachings in the real world, because you can talk about these all you want in class, but when push comes to shove, you only know whether you really learned or have maybe started to learn the values when you're at service projects. So we had a soup kitchen one, and a nursing home, like carol singing one, some other one. So I really enjoyed those when I was in SSE.
One of my favorite experiences was the entirety of my Group 4 process. I just really loved the teachers that we had. I think they were very relatable, and it was around the time where I think things started to change for me. I really started to understand what SSE was all about and really face circumstances that allowed me to apply a lot of the teachings that I learned over the course of the years. And it just helped me reinforce Swami's teachings and kind of have this whole newfound understanding of what SSE is really about. And although it was really late in the game, I think all the years of SSE throughout helped me to lead up to that point, which is why it was one of the turning points and one of my favorite parts of SSE.
Sorry, one of my favorite experiences is actually outside of the SSE Center or the Sai Center, and the ability to apply all of the things I've learned over the years has truly come out in especially my first college years, where it wasn't so easy and I had to adapt to something completely new. And I truly understood why I actually believe in Swami's values and all of his teachings. And that came out to help me a lot during my first years. So, yeah.
And then Abhiram, you gotta unmute yourself.
There we go. So one specific thing that I recall is one of the things that has been a defining moment of SSE for me has been the first time we did a PIP shelter service, and I actually got to go see the food kitchens in Worcester. and I was around 13, 14 at the time. And the process of directly going and like chopping the onions and like making the grilled cheese sandwiches and like helping to actually make the food and then serving it to people was such an important moment for me, because I could be like, okay, I am literally serving my fellow man. I could see the entire process of doing that, from the preparation of the food to the kindness that is involved when you're serving it, the gratitude in the eyes of the other people who are eating the food that you have given them. So it was like a real moment for me where a lot of the teachings that I learned in SSE, whether it was like that, like service to mankind is service to yourself, or that we are all embodiments of divine love, all of that kind of like came to the fore in like a very real way.
All right, yeah, thank you so much for your introductions. So in this is kind of a panel discussion, and so I'll be the moderator guiding the discussion and kind of asking Arjun, Avani, Abhiram, and Anmol questions. So we'll get right into it. What are some of the big ideas over your time in SSE? What are some of the big ideas you learned, and how have you been able to apply it in some way?
Should we go in the same order?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I guess for me, the big thing is that we study the same values every single year. At least when I was in SSE, everything was really a different take on the same material. I mean, either it's the 3Ds: discrimination, discipline, devotion, or it's the 5 human values or whatnot. Everything is really a different take on the same material, and that's because these ideas are fundamentally very simple. Love all, serve all is not a very complicated message, but it takes a lot of practice and reinforcement for that to actually stick. And so I would notice as years went by in SC that we were really talking about the same thing every time. But that's because unless you notice a change in yourself or start to actually think about those ideas and apply them outside of the center or in interactions with other people, it's hard to say that you really learned anything. And so SSE is a process. And it's like Swami says, it's like forging, it's like trying to make a gold necklace. You'll have some raw gold, some 22 karat gold, and you'll heat it, and then you'll stretch it out, and you'll hit it with a hammer, and you'll try to really hammer out imperfections. And that process takes a long time, but that's because you're trying to create something, trying to extract what's really true from the ore that you have. And so the same thing goes, I guess, with SSE. There's a lot of those fundamental values take a lot of, I guess, extraction to really get out. And that's really the point of talking about the same ideas year after year.
Thank you, Arjun. I think going off of that, taking it one step further for me is just learning to apply those into every single circumstance that we have. It's easy to talk and learn about the same things and reiterate them every Sunday, but then it's another thing to go out into the real world and actually learn to use those when we're facing times of hardship, or we're frustrated or confused about something and we don't know what to do. So for me, one of the biggest ideas was learning to apply all of the values that we were taught consistently throughout every situation, and always to lean inwards and think about what would Swami say in this situation, or what would be the right thing to do in this situation, even if it seems like everyone else is going some way, whether it's the right way or the wrong way. It's all about making those decisions and based off of what we learned in Balvikas. And I think that has really helped me to make myself into the person that I am today, based off of the people that we talk to every Sunday at Sai Center. They're the people that help us become ourselves and the best of ourselves too. So for me, it would be applying those values.
I guess application's the theme for today. I'd like to continue on all of that and say that I think the biggest idea that I've taken back from my SSE was it's an ever-evolving process that you go through every single day, and maybe not every day, but every year after year, and you can't really stop learning and applying all these things in different ways. And I think the beauty comes out in finding all these applications that you've figured out on your own. And maybe starting from a very young age, you might not understand exactly how to implement what you've learned, what aunties and uncles and your gurus and your teachers at school have taught you guys. And it's sometimes is a little confusing. You might get conflicting statements, but at the end of the day, if you just keep at it and try to reaffirm yourself or to yourself all these beliefs and what you actually understand and believe in with the support of others, it becomes really, really strong. And then over time, you get to apply them and it becomes more and more and more easy. And I think the biggest idea that I got was that the application is a never stopping process.
I think the biggest thing that I got was by far like the respect that I had for my elders and like looking to them as my example, right? So when it came to like my experiences within SSE, the elders that I had with me, all the aunties that taught me, all the uncles that I did service with, and all the coordinators and whatnot, they really shaped how I view the world. Going into SSE, like center itself is such a unique environment because you go out in the parking lot, right? And there are cars of such diverse backgrounds. You got everything from like Toyotas to Teslas, right? But then as soon as you walk in, everyone's doing the dishes. Everyone's sitting and like chanting bhajans. All of the things that separate us completely melt away on that Sunday. And that experience of being like, okay, there are times when there are no divisions between mankind, and seeing that be like taken as an example every single Sunday really was a huge influence on me. The elders that I had experiences with also showed me what it's like to actually take the values of SSE and again put them as an application, put them into practice. Like from a very young age, I remember I would always go and like if there was an auntie or uncle carrying something, I'd immediately go to them and like try to grab it because I had learned from the elders around me that that was something that you should do. It's just a small spiritual act of seva, right? But it means a lot because it's showing that you're constantly being attuned towards focusing on the values that you have and like seeing where and when you can apply them. So I think the respect that I have for my elders and how they've shaped me on my journey has definitely been one of the biggest things I've taken from SSE.
Awesome. That's that. You know, we could just kind of just talk about that question for a really long time, and kind of SSE is a process, like you guys all kind of stated. Year after year, you learn a little bit. You just become a little better here and there. One of the things that I thought that was really relevant as growing up in SSE and having this and like going to school and like interacting with other children is this kind of this idea of peer pressure and friends. And Swami says this quote, "You're the average of your 5 friends." So that's something I definitely had a challenge with, and it was really hard growing up. Can you guys all like elaborate on that piece as you were growing up?
I guess I'll start for this one. It's actually hilarious because literally I think a couple hours ago, I was talking to my roommates about this very thing, but not specifically average of your 5 friends, but along the lines of who you work with, who you surround yourself with, your friends, your close friends. And there was a very important thing that came up, and it was like, you don't realize how much your friends influence the way you behave. And when Swami says you're the average of your 5 friends, you literally are. Every single quality from all those 5 friends influence you and your decisions and make up who you are going to be and how you're going to change from that. And I've realized slowly that surrounding yourself with good people, no matter how many people tell you that, it doesn't seem like, a very intuitive thing. You just want to surround yourself by people who are fun or people who are exciting or someone who motivates you or inspires you. But in fact, surrounding yourself with a diverse community that really challenges who you are and really pushes you. And I'm specifically thankful that I have this amazing YA community to be what's like the core of my average 5 friends. And that has pushed me to become a better person. And it just shows in dividends how important it is to have amazing 5 friends that are just great. Yeah.
Arjun?
Yeah, so I think when choosing friends, I guess at least in the Sai community, it's a bit easier if you go to SSE with the same people. You know these people for a long time. You might have started in group 1 with the same class of 4 or 5 people and know them all the way through becoming YAs. But I think applying those, trying to figure out what exactly makes you friends with the people in center is important. I think for me, it was the common values. And so I tried to find those kind of values in others, especially when I was in school. I tried to find friends who shared common values with me. And a lot of that was influenced by the friends I had growing up, the friends I had in SSE, friends whose morals and whatnot I respected. And so I tried to find people like that in school and build my friend circle like that. Because I guess building off what Anmol said, it's very easy to the natural inclination is to be friends with people who are fun or people who are interesting or whatnot. And while that's definitely important, you shouldn't just have a bunch of boring friends. You should still, I guess, like, it's a matter of knowing, I guess, during different situations, what side your friends stand on and what side you stand on, and whether you're necessarily on the right side or what you're doing necessarily gels with your values. And I think that's a process as well. It requires lots of experiences, but I'm sure all the SSE students here have many years to experience things that will help temper their friendships to meet the values that they've been inculcated.
For me, friendship is always very important. I think I rely on my friends for advice and for a lot of questions that I have about everything. And it's really important to make sure that the people that you surround yourself with are there to motivate you and help you grow as opposed to bring you down. So I've been in situations in which I've seen people do the latter where they, are a little bit more overbearing, say, I think you should do this, and they're just more coercing with their words and try and make you do things that you don't necessarily want to do. And it takes a lot in a person to get the courage to say no and get the courage to, follow your values no matter what and say, this isn't right. I think I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. And with time, it takes a lot of time and a lot of courage, but with support and help of other people, your families and your friends, it's always important to make sure that you surround yourself with the right people. And it's not necessarily going to happen all at once. It's a process, like everyone else has been saying. It takes time, and you do face a little bit of hurdles on the way, but it's never going to be perfect, but it's always good to have your heart in the right place and your mindset in the right place too.
So the quote, "You are the average of your 5 friends," is actually something that really confused me during high school, because it took me a while to really sort through it and really understand the implications of it. One of the questions that I had, and I remember asking my group 3 or group 4 teacher this, was, if you are the average of your 5 friends, does that mean if one of your friends makes a bad decision, you cut them off? Do you increase your average by that? And that was something that really confused me, right? Because I had friends who were human, right? Who I knew were fundamentally good human beings, but they made personal decisions that I, through my values, didn't stand with, right? So I guess my response to that quote, or after a few years of thinking about it, is, and you guys may disagree with me on this, but it is that you are the average of your 5 friends, but you are not the average of yourself. The decisions that you make are discrete. They're just, okay, am I going to make the right choice or make the wrong choice? The average of all your decisions doesn't necessarily matter. It's what you do every single day. It's what you do in every single moment. So I think that having good friends and having strong connections is very important, but even more than that, having an independent moral compass of your 5 friends is also a super strong value that SSE has taught me. At the end of the day, your friends will define a lot of how you perceive the world and a lot of how you think about the world. But having that independent mindedness, because not everyone will make the right decision at all times, and you got to be able to discriminate whether or not a good person making a bad decision, whether or not you have the ability to say no to that. So I would say that the friends you associate with are super important, but it's also super important to have the ability to discriminate between good and wrong.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. With Abhiram kind of said there, right? It's not even about the average of your 5 friends, but it's about if you can choose what is right or wrong. And I think SSE gives children the ability to do that, right? To discern what is right from wrong. So one thing that I'm very grateful for is having all of you as friends, as around the friends topic. And it's interesting because once you graduate from SSE, you go on and you move to college, and so there's lots of things that can take your time. But this is really kind of like a lasting community, and also it's a global community. We just had like the Zonal Youth Festival from YAs from all over the world came, Canada, Hong Kong. So it was really good to kind of see people all in one place. And when I moved to Boston, the first community that I kind of went to was the YAs, and that was because I had continually went to SSE year after year after year. So would love for all of you all just to kind of touch on this idea of community, and how it has helped you kind of grow.
So I think that the community of the YAs is really interesting because everyone is really focused on improving themselves, and it's great to be in that community. Again, like Sathya, I kind of went directly from SSE to being a YA, right? So it was really great to have a group of people who were like SSE, and that like I could talk to them about these things that matter to me, like my personal values and things I want to grow on in my spiritual activities, and that they would be a community that would always support me and help me with that. I think being a YA is a really good thing. If you're an SSE student, it's definitely something that everyone who is an SSE student right now should consider, because it is really the continuation of your spiritual journey from like going to SSE and learning these things from your teachers to kind of going and learning from your peers. I think it's a really good, and it's been a really big influencer in how I view life.
Anmol?
So I think like the greatest part of having a nice Sai community is that they are a set of friends and a group of people that have been with you since pretty much the beginning of what you can remember. I started my SSE life probably because at I think 5 or 6, and I still am very good friends with every single SSE friend that I made there. And having long-lasting friends or who have been there and continuously, whether they either devote time towards SSE or not, having that communities and support whenever you need something, they know they got you, and you have this just really strong bond and connection that you can trust them, and it's always something amazing to have, even at any point in your life. So as I'm specifically talking to the students, I guess having a cool friend group, having a good friend group with you for a long time will always help, or who will always help you whenever you need it, and who will always be there, is always something that it's something that you guys can take advantage of, and it has really helped me over the years. So
For me personally, I think the YA group has really helped me learn a lot more about myself, and also in the process, I got to meet so many interesting and cool people. I think especially for me, for being on the younger side of the YAs, I see so many elder people that are just a source of inspiration to me. They have so much knowledge in them, and attending satsangs and listening to what they have to say has made me really ponder on a lot of my personal decisions and things that I do, and has helped me make better and more educated decisions, I think. And I love continuing to talk to them about real personal things as well as more abstract ideas. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about this YA community. They're just a very, very supportive, judgment-free group of people that are always there whenever you need them. And it's a great time. They're great people.
Arjun?
Yeah, I think the YA community, especially here in Boston, is one that challenges us to grow from a spiritual sense. And having that group of individuals, I guess as everyone said, having that group of individuals there to challenge your assumptions, but also to serve as sounding boards and to listen to ideas without judging you for how you convey them. I think that's very important. And it is, as Abhiram said, a continuation of SSE in some ways, because spirituality is a never-ending journey. You can't necessarily say that, oh, I've graduated SSE, I'm done. Like, I learned everything. Because learning and like learning something and being educated are two very different things. And it's a never-ending journey. So having this community is very helpful.
Nice. Yeah, totally. So and let me give a little bit of a background here. So once, there are very many YA young adult communities all around the nation, some in Canada. So wherever you go after, you finish school, you most likely join a YA community. And a lot of these people have graduated from SSE, and so they bring their SSE values to the YA community, and then new people join as well. There's this idea of why do we come week after week after week to SSE, to YA satsang, to bhajans, and I think it's a little bit more than just friends, and this idea of learning, understanding, resetting, and for the children in the audience, it's this idea of like, whatever happens during the week, there's always a specific time where you can come and relax and share your thoughts about what happened during the week, and kind of learn about Swami's values, and then go out on the weekend and do some and test those values in a sense, right? So just want to go around and kind of ask people kind of what urges them to come week after week after week, and if you can expand on that.
Can you clarify a bit what you mean by what urged us to come to SSE week after week after week? Or what keeps us in the YA group week after week after week?
I mean, I guess you're right. They're definitely both different. But it's the idea of kind of resetting or charging yourself, and that can change over time, right? The reason can change over time, but there definitely is like a theme behind that. So
I guess
do you want to start?
Okay, sorry, Arjun. So for me, I think there were over the years, I think my reasons has definitely changed, and they've become a lot more mature. At first, when I was younger, a lot of it used to be I would go to SSE to see my friends every Sunday, and it was a really great time. And I would learn some human values on the side. But over the course of the years, I started actually really listening and understanding and becoming one with some of those values. And it was really nice when the teachers would say, okay, now I want you to go out and as homework, apply some of those values. Think about these things while you're going about your day-to-day tasks, and those things and doing things like that really helped me. Another thing that I thought for me personally was really important is because my dad isn't actually a Sai devotee, so he would still make the effort to drop me to SSE every single day, even though he isn't necessarily a Sai devotee. And I would think about that, and I would say, well, like, what's the point of, you know, him still taking me to SSE? Like, maybe these values are actually really, really important, and this is worth understanding and worth learning about and becoming a better person because of it. And I think over the years, it's definitely been difficult at times to say, yes, I do have studies, and yes, I do have like homework and things like that, but SSE will always come first. Swami will always come first, and he'll help me get through all the other things afterwards. And throughout that whole process, it's been a journey, but it's helped me realize a lot about how the human values are really important in every situation.
Anmol, you want to? Or...
Sure. For me, I think starting out when I was much younger, I really didn't understand why I was going to SSE. I mean, my parents asked me to go, and so I was like, sure, I have nothing better to do. And it's slowly life got harder, and I had way more responsibilities, way more things to do, and sometimes it got a little overwhelming. And I think the word resetting really applies to me too, really well, because at the end of the week, I just needed some time to reflect on that week. I mean, some people do it through meditating. Some people have their own way of resetting. For me, it was coming to center each week, and I really appreciate. I mean, I really like bhajans and singing and instruments and stuff. So staying in, especially for the bhajans, for me made a huge impact, because it was just me just relaxing and then letting myself know that next week is going to be a fresh week. I can take it from the beginning. There's nothing in the past that's really going to affect me. And it's like a little fresh start over, which is pleasantly helpful all the time. So that became, I think, one of the biggest things that I took back from going every single week and being able to just get a breath of fresh air. Yeah.
Arjun?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that not everyone starts SSE not everyone starts SSE like in group one, or necessarily starts with, I guess, the same amount of empty. I know I only started when I was in group two. When I was in fifth grade, I want to say I started SSE, and before that, I was the kid who sat in the very back of the room, like not even on like the carpet, not even on the chairs, like even farther back than that, and I'd just be reading some book. So I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in, I guess, what was happening. But over time, I guess, well, I don't know how, but I guess if he wills it, things happen. I became more interested in bhajan and in whatnot, and so that drew me into like bhajan, which drew me into SSE, and so I guess the people really drew me at first. So I was like, oh, my friends are here, but then after that was also very shortly, I'd say the values took over, and it was just something that was fun to learn, a different way of looking at things.
And Abhiram?
That SSE for me, again, I think the common theme that we've all touched upon here is that SSE was a place to see our friends during the first few years of our like side journey. For me, that was a big portion of it. It was like, okay, I've known these people for a long time, and I can get a chance to see them again every Saturday or every Sunday. So that was in my first year or two, that was a big factor in my decision. But then after that, the values, once you've heard them enough times, they start to really get embedded inside of you, and you start to think more deeply about things. I think at the end of the day, SSE was like a place where I could have answers to a lot of the questions I was asking about myself, about like what was right and what was wrong, and like what makes a good person. And it was a good place to go and learn those things. I joined SSE pretty late. I joined the first year of group 3 was the first time I joined. And it was definitely coming into SSE as a little bit of an older child. I was like 13, really influenced my perspective on it. I think that SSE, especially in your like early teenage years is really important, because that's the time where there's a lot of distractions. That's a time when there's a lot of where school picks up. That's a lot of time. That's a time where you really need the battery recharge, as Sathya called it, that SSE is. And so it really came to me at a good time, and I'm grateful for the experience.
Nice. Yeah. Very interesting here that I think we all kind of went through the same similar process of figuring out why SSE is important, and then having a conflict of where, we have to study for an exam or a test, and then we choose whether to come to SSE or not. And I think over time we've kind of figured out the value and the importance of coming to SSE. So to kind of round out the conversation, what's one so for all of the all the children, what's one big piece of advice you all have? And we can just go like a quick round robin. And I think I can start here. I think my one big piece of advice is, this personally, I came late to SSE. It was in my living room, but I think I would come at 10:10. And it took me a long time to figure out the importance of coming on time, showing up all the time. So just like keep with it. And even if it is hard, and if something else is more important that day, just realize that SSE is valuable and will become more and more valuable. And now, and interestingly enough, Budgeons are like an hour away from me, but I try to get there on time. And for Satsang, I try to get there on time now. So things have changed. And well, we can kind of go to Arjun.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is that you're going to learn what seems to be the same thing quite a bit, but that's because those teachings, and I'll go back to what I said earlier, those teachings are profoundly simple. Love all, serve all, help others, don't hurt them. These are not particularly difficult things to wrap one's mind around on any theoretical level. So just stick with it. I can't say that, I don't think any of us YAs up here can say that we've mastered any of these teachings, but our awareness of them has allowed us to shape our actions in a way that will one day or will change us to be better people. And so I think my advice is just stick with it, and you'll see it'll take some time to see the results, but others will notice the results before you notice them.
Avani?
I think mine would be to stay true to yourself and just trust the process and go through it as you would. Always listen to yourself, your conscience. You'll know what the right thing is. Evidently, you'll know, even though maybe sometimes you wouldn't necessarily want to do it. It's always the better decision, and I'd say stick with it, because you'd thank yourself later on. Also, I think everything happens for a reason. So even if some things happen and you don't necessarily intend for that plan to go out that way, or you'd say, no, this isn't what was supposed to happen. Everything happens for a reason. It's okay. It will work out in the end. And I think it takes a while to understand that. And even the small things turn into bigger things, and it takes some time to get there. But Swami has a will, and he has a way of showing that, and you learn so much from it. So just stay true to yourself, and you'll get there.
Anmol?
So I think everyone has really said what I would love to say. So I'm going to take a little different approach. I guess a good piece of advice would be, that has really helped me, is to go out there and to talk to people who don't necessarily believe in exactly the same thing you believe in, and try to understand why they believe in what they believe in. There's a lot of people in your guys' life that are going to tell you what you should believe in, what you should understand. But slowly, as you get older and grow up and understand more and more, it's always a great thing to reaffirm what you actually believe in. And I mean, you start to see it in everyone, that really everyone believes in some of the same things Swami teaches. And whether they know Swami or whether they don't, understanding the perspective from a whole diverse set of other people may give you the perspective that you need to reaffirm what Swami says. And that has really helped me. So.
Abhiram?
The piece of advice that came to mind when you said the question, Sathya, is don't be afraid to let yourself grow. And it's interesting because as you go further along your SSE journey, you start to question things that you may have been doing unconsciously, or habits or activities that you may never even put thought towards. But as you grow more spiritually, you start to question whether or not there's a better way of doing things. For me in particular, one thing was like really getting into a regiment was something that it took me my late teens to get into, getting up early in the morning, getting all of my work done, going to bed really late in the night. And as I grew spiritually, I started getting more attracted to that philosophy. And a part of me was somewhat confused by that, right? But it was all of those years of SSE, all of the like talks about like growth and like spiritual dharma and discipline that were showing up, and letting that work in the background, letting the 5 human values, letting love all, serve all, letting all the principles that we've been taught work in the background of your head, and just letting them loose to help you make decisions and help you make choices in your life is something that you should really kind of work with, instead of maybe questioning whether or not like you're staying true to yourself. Like maybe growing as a human being, as an individual within the values of SSE is probably the most important thing that you can do to increase your spiritual journey.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Now we can kind of open it up to questions from the parents, the teachers, or the children.
Sathya, thanks for the brief intro and sharing your experience. We have a lot of youngsters and youths that needs clarification of what's YA and what it looks like. So if you can touch briefly on that, then that would help for parents and students.
Okay, so so to kind of summarize the question, you have a lot of there's a lot of youngsters and youth, and kind of what is the YA and like how to navigate that?
Yeah, what is YA and how does it help from going from SSE to YA?
Okay, yeah, totally. So there is so once you're through the SSE program, you go elementary school, middle school, high school. You graduate and you go to college, and you can join a YA community, which is a young adult, Sai young adults community, in any like city, in any large city around the U.S., Canada, and whatnot. Any other questions?
You guys are all in for this then? Everybody's in for this? No question, everybody's in, right? Ask me They told it so clearly that the book was understood or it is not understood.
Okay, Sathya, I think thank you very much, everybody, for coming, taking your time out of your busy schedule for this meeting. And if you don't have any questions, we can just close this meeting. Thank you, Sathya. Thank you very much. Thank you, Avani, Anmol, and Abhiram. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Cool.